Okay, we're gonna be starting again. So everyone, please go back to your seats and get yourselves ready for the workshop. I don't think so. Oh, you'd like to charge your laptop? I'll inquire the building, whether or not. Because from our experience, it's more like for those network cables, LAN cables. I'm sorry. Just try and. You want to see the video? Oh yes, it sends out. Is it on? You have to check step. Okay, let's prepare ourselves for the workshop. Everyone, please go back to your seats because Burini is ready to guide us through the workshop. So yeah, once again, it's time to get our hands dirty already and guiding us through the core tenets of making navigation truly accessible for everyone. Please welcome Widyarini Weningtyas from the Bandung Institute of Technology in Indonesia, or as her students call her, Burini.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Rini. I'm from ITB. Actually, I'm an assistant professor in civil engineering, but my research group is under transportation engineering. And maybe in the last 4 years, I've been researching about wayfindings. So I was invited today to make a lecture or actually making a workshop, but because the time limitation, so it's going to be like a lecture style. I'm sorry, although you're not my students. So today I'm going to give you some insights about inclusive wayfinding to creating public transport that everyone can navigate. So in my lecture, I always say to my student, you can cut me in. So if you have any question, just raise your hand, because I don't want to be, I don't want anybody to be sleep or, to be sleepy. So if you like to have your coffee break, it's also okay, but no cell phone because we have only 40 minutes. So your time is precious, my time is precious. Okay, thanks. Okay, before we start, I would like the audience to participate. Like, what do you think of your ideal city? And can be anything, not just about wayfinding or inclusive. So please raise your hand. Okay, one. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. My ideal city would be a walkable one, and also the city where the greeneries are everywhere as well, so we can inhale fresh air every day. That's
Okay,
from me.
thank you. So usually I was giving chocolates, but now I'm going to give you a supplement. So it's like a wellness thing. So because all of us going to need to walk, so rather being sugar like, so it's better. Okay, so anybody else maybe? Okay.
Hi, firstly, my ideal city would be number one. All of the sidewalks have like smooth curbs
Mm.
that like actually is accessible for wheelchair users and cyclists. Number two would be having lots of mamak stores, maybe,
Okay. Okay.
so that I can eat 24 hours.
Okay. So it's a good one. I bring a supplement because everybody likes to walk here. Thank you. No. I don't need two mics. Sorry. Okay. Anybody else maybe? If not, then we can continue. Okay, okay. Maybe one last one. Sorry.
So my ideal city would be that can be accessible for everyone, including vulnerable groups like people with disabilities and also children. That can include sidewalks, public transport integration, and also cycling infrastructure.
Okay. So nobody have envisioned like autonomous, sorry, robotics, future high techs, but it's okay. Okay, next. Okay. So maybe some of us have different generation I saw in this room. So well, in my case, my generation would be when I was born, I was seeing cars everywhere. So if I was asked by someone, if you don't have any other options than car, what will you take? And I said, okay, maybe bus or maybe planes or something like that. But my kids was born in 2020 and 2018, so they are generation of alpha. When somebody asked them, so what would you take if there's no vehicles around? And they would answer, "Whoosh, is the high-speed train." And I said, okay, so this is changing everything. So when were you born? What would you see that would be your transportation mode? For instance, actually, that's the best approach. If you see bicycle, then you will see, okay, my only option is bicycle. So it's depend on what you provide or suggest for them actually. So then maybe previous years, maybe 20 years ago, or no, sorry, 50 years ago, maybe people are planning for vehicles. They are concentrating for vehicles. Then it got stuck. It got jam everywhere, traffic everywhere. So they thinking, okay, we need to do something. We must make people to share. That's why I said what for public transportation. They ask you to share willingly, right? To have a skinship with everybody. Although you don't know them, you need to be in one vehicles with everybody. The I mean, maybe behind this, maybe the government or the planner would make planning for public transportation, but they don't ask what really you need, what you would really want, or what you really need. Okay, so all of them are planning only for public transportation. So that's why it's not when I say it's not surprising when we see or we saw some of the public transportation planning is there, the vehicles is there, the station is there, but nobody take it. Okay, because nobody ask the surrounding people, what do you want? Okay, so now we are shifting to planning for people. So like I asked previously, their ideal city is like, I want to walk, I want like this, I want like that. So that's why this personal opinion is very important. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm taking from the NACTO about the variety of street users. So maybe 50 years ago, they're only concentrated on motorists, and then they put some transit riders or maybe public transportation, but then they forgot if they put public transportation and they are not concentrating on pedestrian, nobody takes the public transportation. Because what you see, uh, people who rides the public transportation is pedestrian itself. So if you don't build a good infrastructure for pedestrian, nobody takes the public transport, okay? So pedestrian, and then sometimes they don't like to walk. They are too heavy to walk. They put another mode, okay? That maybe their first mile or last mile is cycling. And then people doing business, this is also the same. So many cities saw like maybe street vendors, street hawkers as like how can I say, hindrance. So it's not easy, it's not good to see. But if they don't have any food stalls in those, you know, very long walk, you won't walk, right? There are no coffee shops, you won't walk. So that's why we cannot forgetting about people doing businesses. Okay, next. Okay, so in the first slide, the title is Inclusive City. So maybe some of you would ask like, why inclusive city? What is the matter with the inclusive city? Okay, next. So nowadays they mention if it's inclusive, it means that it needs to comprehend the universal design. So what is universal design? So this design means that you can translate it to everybody. Everybody can understand it universally, like language, but this is a design. So they have like maybe 7 points of point of view for the universal design that needs to be compliance. And then, next. But then, designing for who? Okay. So who would like to participate? So what is inclusive for who? Which kind of people? What kind of groups maybe? Yes. This. Okay.
The deaf, so to some extent to the deaf,
Mm-hmm.
obviously people with wheelchair, blind.
Far.
We also focus at Prasarana for the elderly.
Okay.
We did something previously for the autism kids where we have a calm room.
Okay.
That is some of the things that we've done so far.
Okay. I like the autism for kids. Okay. Next. Other maybe. So this idea of inclusive city or universal design usually really closely attached to, I'm sorry, for maybe people who have hindrance on mobility. We call it disability. And then, so this disability can be anything, physical, maybe visual, maybe hearing, or maybe something else. But then autism kids. This is the prevalence of autism kids is now really high because of the usage of cell phone actually. So I didn't give my kids cell phone, and it's totally different with the kids who, if you go to supermarket or you go to the restaurant, you sit down and then you will saw a family that were eating, but the kids will just stare at the screen. Nobody running around, just my kids. My husband was like, okay, he was said, it's embarrassing. I said, no, this is what the kids should do, right? But people forgetting it. Okay, so anybody else maybe? Okay.
Signing for women because women have very different patterns of travel and very different purposes for travel. Women tend to trip chain to do errands, go to checkups, and do so many things in the course of one trip, while most men will start from the house and go to work and go back home.
So it's multitasking woman. Okay, anybody else?
There's also the least mentioned. Basically, there's already mentioning about disabled in terms of autism and all that. There's also dyslexia and also color blindness. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. I think my answer will be including everyone, which is, I would say, designing for universal design. Okay, in terms of universal design, I would say that in terms of designing about safety, designing about accessibility, and also usability, which uncovers the disabled person, persons who are elderly, and also children, women, and everyone, or at most everyone. Thank you.
Okay, that's is the, I mean, maybe the good answer, the very final answer. Actually, it's for everyone. But how can we accommodate everyone's wishes or everyone's preferences? That is the big difference. But then, if we see it from the disability view, okay, they will need something like this, they will need something like that. But if you make, for instance, if you have a stair, but then you have ramps, but these ramps can be used people with strollers. I mean, not only the women or the mother who carry the strollers, but maybe the, how can I say, the, apa sih ART itu? Apa namanya? Pengasuh, babysitter, sorry, the babysitter. So we cannot forget this babysitter also needs accessibility. Or else, because now in Indonesia, maybe we said we are fatherless country, so now people tends to ask the husband to bring the child. But then when they go to, commuter line, they cannot get the priority seats, sorry, because they are men, not women. So I've been giving the picture a father who have children in his hand, and then a mother with a stroller, not just a wheelchair, and then maybe the babysitter, because the babysitter also maybe they are not, how can I say, they are not having a high level education or something like that. They will need something like universal language or the universal design. Okay, next. So in most of us, actually, in most of people, when they're making a journey, they would have like several key key points to do. So first is a cognitive process. I'm sorry, it's in Indonesian. I don't have a time to translate. So it's a cognitive process. So usually, people are tending to have a mental map before they go out because they already passed that routes. They already remember where to go, something like that. And children tends to have their mental maps by touching. They're remembering their surroundings is by touching. And this is why some of the NACTO mentioned that if you design for kids, you design for all, because their process of cognitive to remembering something or to build the mental map is much incredible than the human. I mean the adults. And when they are a good navigator when they are kids, they'll be a better navigator in the future. Okay. And then afterwards, you go navigation. So maybe my parents was using a paper map, and then they would point to me, okay, we're going to this city, and then we're going to pass this river, we're going to pass this another maybe sub-city or district or something like that. They would like for me to remember. So they're teaching me how to navigate using a cognitive map. But then these days you use maybe Google Maps or other service engine maps. We call it egocentric maps. And these maps actually doesn't have a two-way communication. Although paper, maybe you would think it's just paper. Yes, but your brain is start working. When you use Google Map, this Google Map works for you. So they mention in your brain there's the hippocampus section, the gray matter, and it doesn't grow when you always tends to, how can I say, have an option only for Google Maps only. So this is going to make you have Alzheimer or dementia in the future. So actually, this is a very long process journey. That's why I was very happy to have FDTG to create, manuals map. Although everything is now is digital, okay. And then afterwards, you have special orientation. And then this is very, very important for people if, like maybe my father, if he wants to go somewhere, he would say wind orientation. So he will say to me, you go north and then you go south. And I said, like, how do you know where's north? But old people, are using those kind of orientation. I also make a joke to my father. I think you're making from the orientation from the stars. So if I put you in the forest, you will get out. For me, I don't think I will make it. Okay, so that is an orientation of special sense. So for the disabled people, like for blind people, they would have this spatial orientation. And then for kids, also the same. They would try to remember, maybe in my kids' era, they would try to remember, okay, make right turn and left turn, and you will see a convenience store. That's when I bought these toys and everything. So this kind of activity would build actually your mental map. And then afterwards, you also gather information. This day you would gather from everywhere, from maybe from Google Maps, from Twitter, sorry, not Twitter, X, or maybe Threads, or maybe something else. That if I want to go to that place, what kind of transportation that is available, which one is the cheapest one, which one is the convenient one, something like that. And then afterwards, you make a decision, and then you get to your destination. Okay, next. Okay. But then, why do people get lost? So, anybody want to participate? Okay. Is it on? Or you can borrow mine.
All right. For my situation, just this morning, I get lost into the. I thought that I get lost into the woman coach, but for today, the train was covered with Food Panda advertisement in pink color, and woman coach is in pink color too. So I thought I was in the woman coach, so I ran and I didn't get my seat for this morning because the this morning suddenly jam, so like jam with people, so that yeah, that's the issue.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hi. So I get lost because I follow the signage.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I realized is that my brain actually knows a shortcut and I remember it. But when I start to follow the signs, I lose confidence in my own memory, and I end up taking the longer route. Or sometimes I have to U-turn because I'm like, oh, where am I
Yes,
now?
yes.
So that's why I get lost.
Because infrastructure is designed around rules and regulations and not people.
Okay.
So architects and engineers are always trying to fulfill certain plans, force certain things to happen within the space. Then they think about, oh, people need to find their way around the space. And that's why it's so difficult. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, so when I first researching on wayfinding, all my other colleagues, the other professor was questioning me, are you from the design, like a design research group or from transportation engineering? And I said, as he mentioned, many architect or maybe civil engineer, when they build something, they build the wayfinding or signage, they don't think about how people do transportation process or the journey experience process. And actually, it's a different way to think. Maybe the first speaker from MITJ this morning mentioned why we don't put logo in our wayfinding. Because sometimes maybe if they don't know, if I'm not from here, it's like, what is this? It's like, it's maybe if I don't need to go there, I will be lost because what is visa? Visa means something, maybe. But then if I want to go IOE City Mall, for instance, okay, this is the right direction. So it's actually a different preferences and different usage. Okay, next. Okay, so I summarize this. Usually people would get lost like, I don't know where I am. So they tend to, maybe they already had the mental map before, but then they got lost because, wrong direction, wrong signage, or maybe they don't really know where they are, and they're very, how can I say, okay, the first priority is from Google Map, and there's no signal, for instance, there are no data. Or when I went to, because I was take my doctoral degree in Hiroshima, and then I go to Tokyo and meet some friends there, and we are going to go to the Tokyo Tower. And one of the locals, local student there, also he is from Indonesia, he mentioned this way, and I said like, why do you go that way? It's supposed to be this way, because he didn't read how the arrows in our cell phone pointing where you are. So he just follow, but then he becomes further, then becomes closer. And I said, that's why you need to flip your cell phone, for instance, and so on. So the first main thing is you don't know where you are, and then you don't know which way to go because there are too many options. And maybe in those options, it's not your destination, okay? And then if you already find the information, but then you don't find what you need, and then maybe you end up at the wrong exit. So this is maybe very happening so many times when you go to Japan. And last year I go there, and it's a good one because Google Map mentioned if you exit here, 200 meters to your hotel. If you exit here, 1 kilometer. Oh wow! It's making me more efficient, but not in all other countries would have those kind of options or maybe information. And then if you find the information, you find the signage, but then you cannot read it, you cannot see it, or you cannot understand the sign. So maybe 2023, I was collaborating with some Comloving, this is a low vision communities. So they have not totally vision impaired, but just just small impaired. Maybe they cannot see. They only can see maybe last 5%. So it's very small, but actually they can see. So they mentioned if I said if for the totally blind, for tactile, they don't use it anymore because they don't use walking sticks, and their shoes is not designed to hear the difference of between the bullets or the long tile. And then they mentioned, but we use it because it's yellow. We can see it. It's like a small direction for us, and we can use our cell phone and zoom out, so we can zoom in, so we can know which way we go. But then we go to MRT, the subway station in Bendungan Hilir, and it turns out the tactile is gray. So they cannot differentiate between this tile, the ordinary tile, and with the tactile. So that's why I cannot see it. Where's the tactile? The tactile is there, but they cannot see it. And I visit Brisbane also in 2022, also the same. The tactile for them is all totally gray. So they use the gray one, not the yellow one. Yellow or orange one is actually the international coded. And then the others is I said, how can you find the wayfinding? Because this Comloving society, they work every day, they commute every day with trains. And this is very fascinating for me because they're in productive age. They have like maybe 60 members or maybe 70 members, and all of them are productively active. And they mention we can see the sign by taking pictures and then zoom in, sometimes ask for gathering information and then have a talkback feature so they can understand where they're going. But sometimes they mention we cannot find the wayfinding. And I say, why? Because it's not color contrast. What do you mean color contrast? The signage is color contrast, the background is black, the writing is white. Yeah, but we cannot find when you put it in the ceiling and the ceiling is gray. So for them, it's totally nothing. And I said, okay. That is a fascinating innovation. And then so we can sum up that people don't get lost because they are incapable, actually because they get lost because the environment fails to communicate it actively. Okay, next. So what is wayfinding? How many minutes do I have? Still long? Oh, okay. So wayfinding is the process of using spatial and environment information to navigate to a destination. This is the terminology since 1960. Maybe some of you has been born. Maybe some of you don't know what happens in 1960. So actually, it's a very long process. And then we call it legibility and readability. So legibility is how well you see the letters. Readability is how easily you read the words. So long passage is not working. But if you put it like maybe uh, a good font or a good script, it's also good. So uh, I think you mentioned dyslexia, right? So this is also fascinating for me that uh, the writings of exit there is caps lock. For dyslexia, they cannot read it because it's going to be flying over everywhere. So that's why if you nowadays you will see signage even in the motorway or the tollway and highway, they would put not all capital letters. So they would put sentence case letter. So only the capital is in the front only. And then they will use like, for us maybe it's not very formal writings. They would use sans serif scripts or maybe trebuchet or something like that. It's like, why? Why not Times New Roman? But actually for dyslexia, it's very hard to read Times New Roman because they have all of them have tails, right? Yeah, something like that. Okay, and then this is the example of the color and number coded. I think previously mentioned about coloring something. And I'm sorry, I'm talking about wayfinding, but I don't do color contrast on the side. It's from my book, so because I don't have time, and this is the lighting is very okay. So okay, design principle is you don't make me think. So that's why you don't really need necessary too many information. And then wait, what? Where should I go? For instance, human brains takes like reaction from uh, visual information to motorics tends to have 2 or 3 seconds. So if you are in the traffic lights, sometimes they give you yellow just to give you time to move the brakes, right? So it's also the same. If on the motorway or in highway, you should put signage that can be only read in 3 seconds, why not in public transportation? It should be the same. People would walk like 60 kilometers per hour. Yes, okay. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, you will need to have a time quick decision making. Because what? If you lose 1 minute, you will lose the train. And you will need to wait another 10 minutes. It's another time loss. So that's why transportation engineering is very important to be in the field. Because they will connecting the dots to have the seamless journey. How you make the people, okay, the traveling time is only 30 minutes. The walking time is only 10 minutes. But to find the way, it's an hour. So it's another question, right? So all your traveling journey is not just about waiting, walking, and then inside the vehicles, get off the vehicles, and then another walking. No, you need to put how much time you need to find the decision points, and then where to go, and so on. Okay. And then next. Sorry. And then what I need is when I need it. That is important. And then connecting the areas, and then clean up. So too many unnecessary wayfinding or signage is also doesn't matter. So for instance, I think Mas Adri make the stickers on Manggarai, right? So I was really excited with his idea because I said, nobody looks up. Everybody's on their cell phone. Why do you put the signage on the top? Just put it under because they will see it. Okay, if you put it on the top, they will miss it. Like, where's okay, and then you get lost, for instance. Okay, and then invest wisely. So this is the benefit. So that's why I always encourage the operator to have a journey experience. So they would have simulation. So if these people would like to go somewhere and where, you should try yourself, and you should pretend you don't know anything, and then you should read and follow the sign. And what happens? I think ITBP is here today. They also make those kind of experiment, right? Experiment like that. So they put several people to use the signage, and they ask these people would have like a ballonage signage, and then they would try to follow which one is go faster. That's in that case you will find which signage should be placed and which signage should not be placed. Actually, okay, next. Okay, so this is wayfinding within a station. So usually the blue one is for inbound and the red one is for outbound. So usually you would really need a wayfinding in the entrance, in the concourse, and the fare gates and the platform. usually different signage could have a different meaning and different function, and you should place them actually like in the, I don't know why, but if you go to airport, you don't get lost, right? It's like a very simple wayfinding and signage, but how can you cannot implement it the same in the public transportation? Because airport, they have codes to put the signage, but for public transportation, I'm really sorry, I'm really hard to find it. Maybe in several states in US they have, but it's on their style, and they're not putting like how do you need to place them, and it's not internationally coded. So you can have a different iconographic, you can have a different fonts or something like that. But in the airport, it's different. And I said, why? Because when you go to another airport, the iconographic is the same actually. And it was internationally coded. Okay, next. And then this is what I do with my students. So this is just an example. We research on the, I cannot put the name of the company because I signing in the NDA, so I call it Mass Transit Jakarta Station. So in their station, and most of the newest one of the, how can I say? I say the urban railways in Jakarta. So like maybe more LRT or MRT and so on. So they would have similar pattern. I think maybe placing tactile is very expensive, so they're very keeping it the budget. So you can only find the tactile if you go to the entrance with using the elevator only. If you're using the stairs, the tactile is only just blocks to stop. If you use the escalator, it's also the same. They would think, okay, people with disabilities cannot use stairs, they cannot use escalator. And I said, what if happen if there's an earthquake or there's a fire breaks, where should they go? Because the elevator will be dead, right? That is the first one. And then the second one, if you enter the elevator and you go out maybe in the concourse level or in the platform level, they will only guide you to the nearest platform and then the nearest coach. It's not going to be along the way the station. If you go to my country, you will see that. And I said, if the people with hindrance and they go with the elevator and then go out, but then the platform is full, so they cannot move anywhere, they just go there. It's just like kids, you go there and stay put, don't go anywhere, right? So I asked my student to give some recommendation where to put another additional tactile, because some of it I cannot find it to go to the toilet, to the musola tu apa? Prayer room, prayer room, or maybe some to kopi kenangan, or maybe some coffee stall. They would like to eat, people, right? They would like to drink, so they would need this tactile to guide them. Or else there's tactile there, but they don't know what to do with that, because there are no other information. What am I following? If you're following the tactile and then, okay, I hit the fire, how can I say, fire extinguisher, okay, and then I follow again. Okay, I step into a coffee stall, but then what should I buy? Or no information, okay? Next. Okay, this is another. This is in the level of the platform. So you can imagine very minimal. So the yellow one is the existing one. The recommendation is the red one. It's very, very minimum. You cannot find the tactile. And the tactile is gray, as I mentioned previously. Okay, next. And then this is for the colorblind. So FDTG made a integration map. So I asked my student to research how the color contrast is good for the blind people. Not just the fully blind, so partial blind, maybe they cannot see only orange color, maybe blue color. So they try with the simulation with application with the simulation task. So if the results shows not consistent, like white to white is okay, but black to white means that it's not contrast. It's not contrast enough. So this is the example of the BRT buses color coded in Jakarta. So they would have different destination maybe, but same color, and it's very hard to distinguish for colorblind people. Although maybe some of people would mention to me, are these colorblind that go traveling somewhere? And I said, one of my professors colorblind. So yes, of course, why not? So we cannot forget them. Okay, I have my best friend also colorblind. So when he always said to me when we are in the college, he always asked me in the morning, "Is my clothes okay? If it's too bright or it's not too bright?" Because he cannot distinguish. And I said, "Okay, okay, okay." Next. Okay, this is another example for the roots. So if you follow the roots and it's quite difficult if it's not color contrast, then you're going to direct it to another roots. If it's not how can I say color contrast or different contrast. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, so this is what I do in another research. Actually, it is my community service. You can see, and I think it's going to be a prize for the ideation on the last day. So if you can circulate with your friends. So this is initiative from me and my several of my friends of my groups. So we are creating of education for kids, pre-elementary school kids. So maybe from age 3 to 6, concentrated on them. Although when implementation was going on, another level was really interested with the initiative. So we tried to have a play-based education for wayfinding and signage. We call it Navi Station, and then we make several games. So, for instance, we collaborated with the biggest papercraft in maybe Southeast Asia now. We create for the real MRT or the real LRT and the real, high-speed train. So the model will be the same, the prototype will be the same. Even the size, when you compare to one size and another, the coach will be almost, the ratio almost the same. So these kids would happily to distinguish when they made it, and they said, "Oh, okay, MRT is bigger, LRT is smaller, high-speed train is longer," something like that, because the scale up is almost the same. We also collaborated with all the operators in Indonesia, so it's official, it's not unofficial. So we use the same logo, we use the same brand, we use the same color, and then we also make animation for the wayfinding in the station, how to get to the station with the real environment, this exact the same design with the books. So some of the kids, when they're already read the books and then they go to the station, because we also engaging in the station community activities, and they would say, "This is the same with the book. I read this. I was tap the card here because it's the same machine. It's the same model shape, because every train station would have different models, something like that." And then yeah, okay, next. Next, okay. Okay. So how people navigate to us through a space. So the first one is environment. So the physical surroundings where people start their journey. And then information. So clues and messages provide to help people to navigate. So when you have unclear environment like confusing layout, and then poor visibility, lens of check marks, and then missing of inconsistent information, and then people interpret the information and make sense of it, but difficult to understand, and people choose the best direction or option, but having the wrong or unclear decision. And then when movement, people follow the routes and then try to reach the destination, but the route is interrupted and unfriendly. So when you design this and one step is failed, then people get lost. So that's why wayfinding and signage is actually way beyond just like marks and then sign, because actually it's a cognitive process and help people how to get through the journey itself to have a seamless journey. Okay, next, last one. Okay, so this is the key implementation strategies, but this is not just this. You can have out of the box idea or other ideas. So low cost intervention, like maybe tactile guidance, real time announcement, RAM, and accessible signage. But these days maybe data driven planning, and then technology enablement, and then capacity building and training for the inclusive design trainings for planners and operators. Okay, maybe that's all. Thank you. So this is my email. You can write it down if you have any questions. We have a discussion time or no?
We have
Okay.
5 minutes. Thank you, Widyarini, for the session. Maybe before we get lunch, we will just open a short Q&A session for anyone who might be curious about the issue of wayfinding. If anyone wants to ask a question, please do raise their hands. Yes.
Morning, ma'am. Sunita from Prasarana. A quick question. You talk about the colorblind, the dyslexic, and other category which is not the main disability scan. How do you prioritize what is important, what is not? Because as a provider,
Yes.
kita tak boleh, we cannot do everything.
Yes.
So we need some kind of at the moment, yes, we do for the blinds, and that's about it. And also the languages, like when you go to Singapore, you have all 4 languages. I'm not so sure about Jakarta whether you only have Indonesia and also English. For us, we have both. So where do you draw a line? What is nice to have,
Yes.
and what is good to have?
So everything what comes to the budget, I think, for operator. that is my best answer, because when I think somebody from LRT Jakarta, right? When they first built their LRT systems and they have their own wayfinding signage, and suddenly FDTG interrupted. We should have the integrated signage, and they said it's too expensive. Why do we need to change, right? So the hindrance is always the budget. So what am I saying here is that you cannot accommodate all those people actually, but you can draw a line which one you should accommodate. So these days for blind people, most of them are concentrated on tactile and braille, although this is a very expensive approach. And actually if you research more because you need to know your future customers, so you will need to ask not just now, existing customers, but also the future customers. The future customer is the generation A, generation Z. For them, if they're blind, what are their preference? Because from my findings, when I interview some of the kids who have visual impairment, they mention we don't read braille and we don't like it. And even the institution of the blind impairment in Bandung city, they mention the braille book is very expensive these days. If we print out ourselves, it's very expensive. And if you read 100 pages books, it becomes 400 pages books of braille. And it's very hard for this new generation to read the braille, to learn the braille. And this day they only use the talkback version. So they would use ebook, and they asked the talkback application to read for them. Even nowadays, if I submit a journal for publication, I will need to provide alternative text for each figures and each table. So my journal could be read or could be listened by people who have visual impairment, for instance. So that's why actually not all the physical wayfinding and signage should be placed. If all the customers are nowadays, using gadget, so concentrate on your gadget, concentrate on an application. Maybe that would be cost a lot cheaper. And then, for instance, for fonts, actually, if you cannot, if my customer doesn't have dyslexia, why should I bother? For instance, right? But then, if you would like to research more on how universal design is work, they mention it's better to design for universal design at the beginning, then you retrofit the design on later case, because it's going to be spending more. So for instance, if you put the signage already in caps lock because it's already industry made, you don't want to make a custom made because it's maybe a lot expensive or so on. But then it turns out your government mentioned, okay, you should need to put this kind of signage. You need to change all, right? So that's why before you implementing something, you should check first. Okay, this font, is it okay for dyslexia? Is it okay for normal vision? If it's okay, then okay, go on. If not, then just follow. Because if you put not caps lock, even the normal vision can read it. Just like the same when I mentioned, if you design for kids, then you design for all. So even there's some research, they ask the kids to put the camera in their hats, and then it's better to do like this. So we just ask the kids and bring the camera, and we can see how he see the world. And when we put it signage for them, and it turns out everybody can read it. So for instance, maybe children these days can, that's why I put the navigation education, because children can distinguish, okay, mom, they cannot even read, okay. Mom, I want half burger. Okay, which burger? McDonald's. Ah, that's McDonald's. And I said, how do you read McDonald's? What do you read on that logo? Burger. But they know that is McDonald's. And I said, no, BK. No, not BK. I don't want BK. Can you read it? No, it's BK. You go there and you mention this is BK. And I said, why is that the same with the signage of transportation? Mom, I want to take the MRT. Which MRT? This MRT. Because he knows the sign. He knows the logo. It's a simple things, but kids know it, then adults know it. Even from afar, you can say, okay, that's MACD. Right? For instance. Okay, I hope that answered. Okay, maybe other people? Yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Joseph from the Quezon City, Philippines. My question is simple. What's like the design standards for the signages that you guys currently use? Maybe because we would like to incorporate this in our public transportation because we don't have it at the moment. So, maybe we could use your existing model as a guide that we can use for our public transportation. So maybe I could just tap him for his measurements later. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I can answer that. I mean, there's
Hi.
a book you can read. Maybe later in the lunch you can read that, but I would be honored if you want to actually adopt that wayfinding guideline.
Okay. So actually, it's very fascinating when I was researching about wayfinding in Indonesia. So the standard, the manuals, they're none. So only for traffics. So traffic signage, yes, because I'm a traffic engineering also, so I know. For the highway, yes. That's why I mentioned in airport they have internationally coded, but for public transportation, no. Even in the outside of Indonesia, I tried to find it, but nobody mentioned, okay, this is the manual, this is the ISO, this is no. Maybe in Japan, yes, they have, but only that. But then they don't publish it outside. How they design it, they don't give it you the real formula, for instance. So when I research, then I find him. I find his name, and it turns out, okay, he's designing. Wow, I said, he designing a wayfinding maps and then integration maps, and then he was the one who defending this should be a manual to our former governor of Jakarta. So instead of Indonesia have the first manual, it's Jakarta own it. Then the other follows because he moved to another company. But he makes me also easier to do the research because he changed the one company, the rail operator company, to another company. So he tried to influence all the operators to follow him. So that's why when you mention which standard, it's his standard for Indonesia. I can say he's the man of wayfinding and signage in Indonesia. Really, really, give him a big applause. And his friend also and his team, not just him, right? Okay. So if you ask me which standards, that's why we are still evolving in the research itself. Because if you follow from 1960 about wayfinding and signage, it's how can I say, developing. It's not just fixed standards. So like for instance, the fonts. The fonts previously caps lock, Times New Roman, and then so on, and then it's changed. They said the script should be sans serif. It's easier for anybody to read it. Everybody's the legibility is okay, the readability is okay. So this is ongoing process. Even the color blinded, I find in Italy there's some people, some men research it, and he puts like a circle, and then I forgot. So he put a circle and he make a logo. So if you cannot read by color, you can read by this logo. But it will, for instance, for color code, it also is a problem because they mentioned the Pantone color is not enough anymore. If you have very high networks, the color would cannot be, you know, uh, the color palette is not available anymore. You already use all. And if you use the Pantone color, okay, RGB, this one, different, slightly different, it's going to be a problem for the color blinded. So they put, you know, that's why they put the numbering code, additional code, because you need to distinguish which the color, for instance. So actually, it's not very, how can I say, apa ya? Kayak nggak ada yang saklek tuh.
There's no fixed guidelines.
Yeah, there's no fixed guideline for this one because even the generation is different, right? How they read the sign. Even I don't understand what my kids are saying right now. So that is another problem. I find something like this. This is another example. So if you have like a mobile banking apps, usually for in our country, BCA is very good one because they have two different apps, the old version and the newest highest technology version. And it turns out like my mother is very easily to use the interface for the older version. But for me, it's okay for both, but maybe for the Generation Z, it's better for the later one. So that's why they even in I went to some conference in Russia, sorry, in Austria. There were some people from Israel. They mentioned they have like apps developing, but not for the Generation Z, but for the millennials and before. So they mentioned, okay, they should have the universal design. The UX is, you know, easily to accessible for all people because the future customer is the older people, not the newest guy. Okay. Yeah, I think time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Buri.